Okay, so once we have our balance, one of the things that we have to do is to go through the data. So we have the nickel on this side, we have the distance from the nickel to the pivot point, then we have the distance from the pivot point to the quarter, and this whole thing is the fulcrum. So let's start to collect some data and see where we can go with this. So first of all, if we take a look, here is the actual data. And the data is, let me get this here for you, for the distance of the pivot point to the nickel. It's about 22.50 centimeters where the pivot point is, minus 3.60 centimeters where the nickel is. The distance is 18.90 centimeters, but we don't know the mass of the nickel. Now, we can assume that the mass of this and this string are the same as the one over here, so they kind of cancel out. If we look at our quarter, we definitely have the pivot point to the quarter. The distance is about 14.30 centimeters, and the mass of a typical US quarter, I believe after 1965, is 5.60670 grams. Now, here's the magic equation that we need for this, and if you decide to take physics, you'll learn a whole lot more about this. This is basically a fulcrum, a lever, and a simple machine. It's pretty common in a lot of different physics classes. It basically says the mass times the length on one side of the pivot point is going to equal the mass times the length of whatever's on the other side of the pivot point. We know the mass of the quarter and the length to the pivot point. Hey, we know the length of the pivot point here. Let's solve for x. So if we go through and do this, here's what we end up. So basically I just set up an equation, divide both sides by a distance, and lo and behold, x is 4.29 grams. Supposedly, that's the mass of our nickel. According to the US Treasury and the US Mint, it should be for brand new nickels exactly 5.0 grams. That means we're off by about 14%. So it turns out there are some questions that we have to ask ourselves. So here we go. Number one, what's the deal with the error? How does accuracy and precision play into this? And what exactly is accuracy and precision? What is the mass of a nickel? Because again, new nickels are 5 grams, but after being in your pockets for however many years, maybe they might not be exactly 5 grams. With these measurements, how far out do we go? How do we know when to round? What would we do if we were to do more trials? Could our lab partners actually build a different or better balance? Or could we build a better balance? Hopefully these are questions that we'll ask in our journey to learn more about the natural world with just common household items.